I realized I've spent over $10,000 on subscriptions in just 5 years. Nothing fancy, just a bunch of small charges that didn't seem like much at the time. But over 5 years, it's massive. And I'm not the only one. If you think this doesn't apply to you, you're wrong. Studies show we underestimate our subscription spending by an average of $133 per month. So I wanted to understand how we got here, what tricks companies use to get us hooked, and how we can take back control. Because honestly, we got trapped and we didn't even see it coming, so let's break it down. Let's take a popular example. It's 2014. Back then, a Netflix subscription cost just $7.99 a month. For me, and honestly for most people, paying $8 for unlimited movies and shows felt like a good deal. Netflix's goal was simple: grow the subscribers base as fast as possible, even if it meant losing money. They said it themselves straight in their annual report. And they were bleeding cash at the start. Productions were insanely expensive. Marco Polo alone cost $90 million for the first season, and House of Cards $100 million for the first two. Still, the offer was irresistible. That model worked. They gained millions of subscribers fast, and as their audience grew, they kept funding even bigger productions. Everything was going perfectly until 2022. That year, for the first time in a decade, Netflix lost subscribers. And that's when the panic started. The same company that once encouraged password sharing suddenly flipped and banned it. And it worked. Revenues kept climbing. People didn't really have a choice. After 10 years of watching Netflix, no one was just going to quit. And here's the crazy part. While the number of subscribers kept rising, so did the prices quietly. Every 2 years, the premium plan went up by $2. Little by little, we went from $11.99 in 2014 to $24.99 in 2025. Double the price. It was subtle enough that no one really noticed. Sure, production costs went up, but the truth is, investors wanted cash. Profit became the new priority. And that's not the only reason. We'll get to the others in a moment. But first, let's look at another familiar example. Uber started with a story that feels oddly familiar. When it first launched, Uber was this super premium experience. Drivers were dressed sharply, they'd open the door, even offer you water, all for the same price as a regular taxi. At the same time, drivers were making good money, about 80% of each ride. But that golden phase didn't last long. Slowly, the service started to decline, drivers got paid less, and prices went up, in some cases doubled, or even tripled. Investors stepped in and made their priorities clear. Profits. You can see it in their earnings. For years, Uber lost money just to capture market share. It wasn't until 2023 that the goal shifted from growth to making money. The tricky part with Uber is that price hikes aren't always obvious. A ride's cost doesn't just depend on distance or time, it also fluctuates based on demand, driver availability, and other hidden factors. You can take the exact same route and pay half one day but double the next. And here's the ironic part. Because rides became so expensive, Uber introduced a subscription. For a monthly fee, you get 6% off, but based on a price you don't even know in advance. There's no way to verify how it's calculated. But when you step back, you realize that this shift towards subscriptions isn't just Uber's thing. It's everywhere. One of the first big companies to make the jump was Adobe. For years, Photoshop was a one-time purchase. Buy it once, own it forever. But in 2012, Adobe switched everything to a subscription model. Then came smartphone apps. Today, almost none of them are one-time purchases. It's all monthly or yearly plans. In fact, there's even a name for it now: SaaS, or Software as a Service. Instead of selling you a product, they rent you access indefinitely. And it's booming. The SaaS market exploded from $30 billion in 2015 to over $250 billion in 2025. And it's still accelerating. So what causes this change? It turns out the subscription model is way more profitable than one-time sales. Take Adobe. After switching to the SaaS model, their profit margin jumped from 20% to 35%. And that's the trap. Companies are betting on our attachment to comfort, on the people who procrastinate, who don't bother to cancel. That's why every app starts with a free trial. A Forbes survey found that 45% of people forget to cancel their trial, and nearly half admit keeping subscription they barely use. That's the game, and it works. Their revenue have never been higher. But there is more. The subscription model gives companies something they love even more than profits: predictability. Recurring revenue is stable, reliable, and investors love that. The longer they keep you subscribed, the more loyal you become, and the easier it gets to sell you new features or premium upgrades, all inside the same familiar ecosystem. And there's a bonus. SaaS makes piracy almost impossible. You can't just crack Photoshop anymore. Your access is constantly verified through the subscription. So you might wonder, if this model is so profitable, why didn't everyone do it sooner? Actually, they did, just in a different form. Think of printers. The cheap entry-level models were never the real product. The money was in the ink. The cartridges cost almost as much as the printer itself. That's the key. For those companies, selling the printer was just an investment. The real profit came later, from you buying more and more cartridges. What they really care about is something called LTV, which stands for lifetime value. It's the total amount of money a customer spends over time, from day one until they cancel. If you've been a Netflix user for 5 years, that's $18 times 12 months times 5 years, which is $1,080. The monthly fee doesn't matter much. What matters is keeping you subscribed for as long as possible. Another classic example, subsidized smartphones. And I know this word. I actually worked for a telecom company in France in the department that ran these kind of calculations. Carriers would sell phones at a discount, but only if you signed a long-term contract with a slightly higher monthly fee. And that's the trap. In the end, you paid more for the phone, but you felt like you got a deal. But why do we keep falling for it? Most of us know what's going on, and yet we still fall into the trap. Well, it's all about perception. Paying $80 a month feels easier than paying $1,000 upfront for an iPhone, even though long-term it costs us more. We're naturally optimistic about the future. We tell ourselves that the extra cost won't matter later. Maybe we'll get a raise or a bonus, and sometimes that's true, but most of the time it's not. Companies use powerful psychological tricks to get us on board. One of them is called price anchoring. They first show you a high price, say $104.99 a month for Adobe, which becomes your reference point. Then they present the annual plan at $69.99 a month. Side by side, it looks like a deal, even if it locks you in for a year. Then there's the freemium. Those free or nearly free apps that hook you up early. Once you use them, the walls close in. Ads appear, features get blocked, and suddenly the only way out is to upgrade. Netflix does it, offering you a cheaper plan if you accept ads. Spotify too, free but only if you're okay with interruptions. And mobile games, they thrive on microtransactions, tiny payments to skip wait time or unlock key features. Then comes loss aversion, our fear of losing what we already have. If you've ever used an iPhone, you've lived this. Apple makes it crystal clear: stop paying for iCloud and you risk losing your data. And once you're in, you're stuck. No one wants to lose their photos or videos. But who has the time to sort through them? Subscriptions have become a quiet danger to our wallets. And the worst part? Many companies use what's called dark patterns, which are subtle design tricks to make unsubscribing harder than it should be. On Amazon, you need 6 or 7 clicks just to cancel Prime. Some websites even swap button colors or placements to mislead you. Others try guilt, offer new discounts, or suggesting you pause instead of canceling. Everything is built to keep you in. But here's the good news. Regulators are starting to push back. In Europe, Amazon was forced to make Prime cancellations doable in just 2 clicks. And in the US, Amazon agreed to pay $2.5 billion after the FTC accused them of using dark patterns to trap users into Prime. At the end of the day, subscribing or not is still our choice. So I think it's important to add a bit of nuance here. Because honestly, in cases like Netflix or Spotify, I'm not even sure it's really a trap. It's a win-win situation. You don't have to buy every album you want to listen to, you just pay for a monthly fee for unlimited access. You don't need to own the music, listening is enough. And on the other side, artists get a share of the revenue based on how often their songs are played. It seems fair for everyone. But subscriptions start to get ridiculous when you're asked to pay for something you've already bought. Let me explain. A few years ago, BMW became the perfect example. People bought their cars fully equipped with heated seats, but to use them, they had to pay a monthly fee. The hardware was there, installed and paid for, but locked by the software until you subscribed. Customers were outraged. They felt like they were being charged twice. Eventually, BMW backed down. Another case that sparked backlash was HP's printing subscription. You pay monthly based on how many pages you print, and HP automatically sends you new cartridges when you run out. But here's the catch. If you cancel or your payment fails, those cartridges stop working. Even if they're full and sitting in your printer, the software blocks them. In reality, you don't own the cartridges. HP just loans them to you. And what's worrying is that this is only the beginning. So far, these strategies were mostly used in the digital world. Apps, software, streaming, but now they're making their way into the physical world thanks to connected devices. And you guessed it, it's already happening. Tesla now offers its full self-driving mode as a monthly subscription. BMW tried to charge for heated seats. And tomorrow your fridge might need a subscription to restock your groceries. The smarter our devices get, the easier it becomes for companies to turn a one-time purchase into a steady stream of revenue. We might not own products anymore, we'll just rent their features. So how do we avoid falling into the trap? Here is a simple exercise. List out all your subscriptions, every single one, and then calculate what they cost over 5 years. You'll be surprised by the total. Next, look at the ones you haven't used in the past 30 days. Cancel them. No hesitation. That's the first step toward taking back control of your money. And repeat this every 6 months. Those small monthly charges don't look like much, but over time they add up to a full salary. A $10 subscription per month is $600 over 5 years. Multiply that by 5 services, that's already $3,000. And that's conservative. The average person has around 10 subscriptions. I'm not saying you should cancel everything. Netflix or Spotify make sense if you actually use them. But do a regular cleanup. Remove duplicates. Cancel what you don't actually use. And before you hit subscribe, think long term. Look at what it costs over years, not months. In the end, you should control your comfort, not the other way around. And one last thing, subscribe to this channel. Worst case, it costs you nothing. Best case, it saves you money. Thanks for watching. See you next time.